Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Third Floor. My name's Joe, and today we're doing our first group video in what feels like a couple years. So today I got Lee with me,
Hey, what's up, everybody?
and we got the returning Mr. Parker.
Glad to be back, everybody. Been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. For all of us, really, it seems like. So today we thought we'd kind of group in together and discuss the movie that we all just saw, The Flash. Now, I know this can be a controversial movie, but we're here just to give our thoughts, kind of tell you what we thought about, and see if it's worth your time to go see in the movies. So we're going to start this little discussion with our initial thoughts, and we're going to start with Parker. Parker, what is your initial thoughts of this movie in general?
For me, the Flash is my favorite superhero. I've been waiting for this movie for a long time coming now. I honestly really enjoyed it. I think that a lot of the detractors from this film, came in the surroundings of it in the DCEU and the other controversies and other negative factors going around the film. But the movie itself, I really, really did enjoy. While it still had its flaws, it brought everything that I wanted to see on the screen. Would I change a few things here and there? Absolutely. But I really just wanted more, and I would have been happy to see this movie continue to get a sequel, to go further into the Justice League with the development that they had there. I thought they did a really good job. It was a very emotional film. All the actors did a great job with their roles, and I just would have wanted to see more. So for me, it was a good film. I enjoyed it, and it's one of the first movies in a long time that I'm actually looking forward to going back to the theaters and seeing again, and I don't remember the last time that I've done that.
Wow. All right. Big words there from Mr. Parkour. He's willing to go back to the movies to see it again. All right, Lee, what were your initial thoughts after seeing the movie?
All right, so like Parker, similar to Parker, I was also anticipating this movie. Honestly, part of it was because of everything that was going on behind the scenes. Like this movie's been trying to be made for the last 7 years, so I was just interested to see what a decade's worth of movie making would come up with. And while I might not have enjoyed it as much as Parker, I definitely think there's some like redeeming aspects to this movie. However, I don't think that it was as game changing as all the hype was. So, like obviously there were people like Tom Cruise, James Gunn, like everyone was saying that it was the greatest superhero movie ever made. Definitely wasn't that. I do think it was good. However, I think it was like a day late, dollar short. If this movie came out 5 years ago when it was supposed to, I think it would have been much better because it would have been one of the newer multiversal ideas. But at this point, we're so used to the multiverse concept, and it's honestly kind of oversaturated in the superhero market. Like every franchise is doing the multiverse right now, and Across the Spider Verse just did it significantly better a week later. That I would say it was the wrong timing. I think again, it wasn't a bad film. I mean, the CGI and Ezra Miller aside, I think the storyline was like solid in some areas, especially how they adapted Flashpoint. I like some of the changes, but I think if it had come out 5, 6 years beforehand, like it was supposed to, it would have been a much more bigger success. Because, like I said, I literally had just seen Across the Spider Verse last week, and opposed to Parker, I would rather go see Across the Spider Verse again than this film.
Hmm.
Nice. Yeah, I think you guys made great points. And we've talked about this a little bit before, not that we gave everything away, but I kind of found myself being in the middle of these two, where Parker really enjoyed it, and Lee at times really didn't. But like he said, he did like some of it. I think the hype
It
hurt.
wasn't terrible.
No, I know. I'm saying
All
you're in
right.
the middle, but if you're on the spectrum, you're on the negative side, Parker's on the positive side. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think the hype hurt this movie. I just think it built up so much. So when you went into the movie theater, you were like expecting to see the greatest superhero movie of all time, like the Dark Knight level quality. But in reality, it was not that, unfortunately. It did have great moments, like Parker said. I think some of the emotion was actually fantastically written, and the characters' interactions was really well done. It's just, man, it's not that type of movie you should tout as being like the next big thing or the greatest of all time, because it's just not. It doesn't have the potential to be that. So I just think the hype hurt it too much. It definitely had some major flaws, but it did some things really well, and those things that they did well surprised me, and that got some extra points for me. So, with that being said, we got our initial thoughts out of the way. I want to hear some quick fire pros and cons from the boys, all right? So, let's do two or three pros and cons from each of us and really hit home what you liked and disliked about the movie. Parkour, we'll start with you first.
So a quick pro. From the beginning of the movie, we got to see a little bit with the Flash, a little bit with Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman, a little bit with Wonder Woman. This was an aspect that I really did like. Working with Alfred, we got to see a little piece of what the Justice League could be. Once they've been able to have some time together. I thought they worked well together, even though it was only half of the original team that we've seen before. I thought it meshed much better. They had some comedic moments. They had areas of teamwork. They all helped each other out where they were lacking. And I thought that, if that was what we were going to get for the future, and if that's a little taste of what we might be able to see, that's a really good sign. Another pro that I had, I like that they took some of the parts, acknowledging a lot of the cons and the flaws of Ezra Miller's performance of Barry Allen in the previous movies, about how he was very annoying. He was just no one really liked him. He wouldn't have been anyone's first pick, and I agree with that as well. But they acknowledged that. They acknowledged his goofy run. They made fun of it themselves, and they showed that our primary version of Barry was able to develop. He was able to see at his past self. He was able to see his flaws and kind of grow past that and see what everyone else was seeing with him. So I really like that they took that and actually gave some character growth to Barry. Another pro, as Joe, as you mentioned, the story, the emotional parts of it, it was very, very good, very well done. All the moments with Barry and his father and his mother were heartfelt, and you could really feel for the guy that he's going through a tremendous challenge in his life and having to come through some big decisions. As far as the cons go, some of the obvious, the CGI, yeah, there were some parts that were not up to par. They, for a big budget superhero movie, they just weren't where it should be. In my personal opinion, can I look past that? When some of the worst cases are, oh, someone's face looks off and it looks good, doesn't look good, it might look like a PS2 graphic or whatever. I don't really care about that as much as, I want to see the fight scenes look good. I want to see Barry's lightning look good. Those all look good. All the fight scenes I enjoyed. There were some moments that, Joe and I were looking at each other in the theater like, holy cow, I didn't expect them to do that. There were a lot of good moments with that. So I can look past that poor CGI, but I understand if people can't. And then just the biggest flaw around the movie is that it's being made into a dying universe that's going to be rebooted, as well as all the other controversies that's going alongside it. I think if those weren't there, the reception would be quite a bit different. And as Lee mentioned, it's the right movie put into the wrong time. They did a lot of good, but we've seen it time and time again at this point between the other DC and Marvel movies. So there's a lot going against it. And it can't quite hold up when you got 40, 50 other standalone and team up movies that have come out recently. The superhero fatigue is there, and it wasn't one that could break away too much from what we've seen already.
Nice.
And I'll pass it on to Lee.
Yeah, well said. Lee, what do you got?
It's ironic, right? I was just thinking about it, that this movie's too late, and I always think Man of Steel came too early. Like, I actually just rewatched just scenes of Man of Steel the other day, and I talked to Parker about this recently. The more I watch it and the more time passes, the more I like it. And it's just ironic that if only these two movies could have met in the middle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If only they had everything working for them. But all right, I'll keep pros. I'll keep it brief. The pros, I really liked Michael Keaton's Batman, which I was surprised for. I was not going into this movie being one of those people that was excited about Michael Keaton's Batman, but I liked how they modernized his action, his fighting, and his weapons, and his all his tech without going into a ton of exposition. And I felt like he was a great fan service character in that he did his job without overshadowing the main character. Obviously, the marketing was all about Michael Keaton, but in the movie itself, he did his job of playing just enough of a supporting character while not overshadowing the main character. And Michael Keaton, I thought, did a great job. Number two, I really liked the two Barrys. Well, I didn't think I would. I thought that was stupid in the trailers, and then I ended up enjoying the two Barrys for all the reasons Peter said about how it showed his him maturing. And then I honestly liked the twist at the end with him being the villain. Because if we're not going to get Reverse Flash, like who obviously I would want as the main antagonist,
Of course.
this to me was a solid second pick. Because honestly, I think Reverse Flash deserves his own sequel where he's like, or his own movie where like you can really flesh him out. You know what I mean? Like give Reverse Flash. There's too much going on in this film to include him, and do him justice. And in terms of the cons, just to play devil's advocate for what Parker was saying, the beginning opening scene in the movie, and I said this to Parker, I loved seeing the Justice League together, but I didn't like you could have taken out the first 30 minutes of the movie, and I don't think it would have impacted like the remainder of the film. Because in Flashpoint, the first 30 minutes is like Flash realizing he needs to save his mom and go back in time. Whereas like there's none of that really in this film. And then there's that whole thing about he needs to eat in order to like gain energy. Like there's that like scene where he like breaks into the vending machine and like eats. And we never see that anywhere else. Like that was one thing that I thought was weird. Like he's fighting in all these scenes at the end, and they never once brought up the calorie tracker meter thing, which is like a huge deal in the opening scene. So I felt my intelligence was a little insulted because it seemed to me like they had shot that a year before, and then like a year later, they just had forgot about it and like, oh, well, they'll just forget about it. And then I would say the one last thing was I didn't like how Barry didn't learn his lesson because at the end of the film, he still changed the timeline because he had the father look up at the security camera. So him as a main character, I would say I liked his growth, like Parker was saying, in the middle of the film and how it showed his, like comparing, juxtaposed to the younger Barry, it showed his maturity by him being like very annoying. But at the end of the film, he changes the timeline again, which is the complete point of the film, is to say your scars are what make you. And then he does the exact same thing in the last scene. And so we're basically saying, meaning he learned nothing. But yeah, those are my pros and cons. Definitely a lot of good. I'm not going to hurt it for the CGI because everyone's talking about that. But that's what I got.
All right, so I'm going to make mine quick because I'm going to be kind of reiterating what you guys said. I wrote my list earlier, and it's a lot of the same pros and cons that both Lee and Parker said. So pro, I thought it was a great final third of the movie. It was creative, and it was heartfelt, and there was emotion. I loved it. Like Parker said, the emotion between young Barry and older Barry was great. I thought it was a great way to kind of make good on the poor casting choice that I think is clear that they made. I think the Flash scenes were surprisingly good. Now, did I enjoy all of them? No. But I think they had the deck stacked against them when making these fight scenes, and they had some moments I was kind of surprised they turned out as good as they did. So that surprise factor gives it a pro. And then I'll leave it there because you guys kind of said everything else. Con, I think way too much fan service without enough meaning. I agree with Lee. The first 30 minutes to 45 minutes of the movie, we could completely cut off, get rid of it, and I would have been happy. This is one of those rare movies that I think went too long, and it had too much that it didn't need. So get rid of that beginning. I think some of the humor was good, and it enhanced the character, but a lot of it was the humor they put in Star Wars, where it's unnecessary and takes away from some scenes. So some humor good, most of it poor. And then my last big one was, I wrote this just like Lee said, no lesson learned. The Flash's struggle is supposed to be that he's one of the most powerful beings on the planet. He can alter history and time and do whatever he wants, but he actually can't do it because he's a good person and he knows better. Like, he had to learn those lessons, take those bumps, earn those scars, and now he has to live with it, that he has the power to change things, but at the same time, he can't do it because he knows who he is inside. So that lesson is something that this character should have learned, and he clearly didn't when he changed the timeline after all that he saw and did. So that's a big con for me. All right. So
yeah. I want to say a quick piece on that, just for, to be devil's advocate for that before we go into our final ratings. So I understand, that it seems like he didn't learn his lesson, and I can agree, it's still going to mess with something is not the smart choice. But I think the biggest thing is that, what Barry was thinking in that moment, he's not changing the past anymore. He's trying to change an event happening in the present, which is probably why he didn't think it was going to have any sort of effect. He wasn't interacting with anyone else. He wasn't saving someone's life or preventing someone to die or anything like that. Just changing one thing to make the video where he's changing a present conflict. I think that's where he was thinking. Still wasn't the right decision, but I think it's still a Barry that knows that he shouldn't make some drastic change in the past.
All right, nicely said, boys. So let's get down to it. I'm going to start with you, Lee. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this movie as a rating, and should people go see it quickly?
7.
Ooh.
And yeah, I mean, go see it. Maybe 7.5. Like, it's not a bad film. 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. And yes, if you've already seen Guardians of the Galaxy and Spider-Verse, go see it. But I still think those two are, well, if you're paying for the price of admission, go see those two first.
In my personal opinion, I'm sitting at that 8.5 to a 9. On the higher end of a 9 being of that the film by itself. Like I said, The Flash is one of my favorite superheroes. I'm putting this for the DC movies right up with Man of Steel as probably my 2 favorite movies that I enjoyed to watch the most, that I would go back and watch again.
All right, so my ratings is surprisingly, I'm going to have the lowest rating here of the movie. I was thinking somewhere between a 6.8 and a 7, to be quite honest. And a lot of it is due with how much potential they had and how little they capitalized on. And that sounds harsh. I'm not trying to be. But I just think they had kind of the world at their feet, because it's a movie that doesn't have to make sense, and it's not going to be something they build upon because it's the end of a universe, the DCEU. So I think they could have just taken more creative liberties and made a story that actually fits well together. And instead, it seems like they had DCEU's dirty laundry and tried to shove an ending for everyone into that movie. So I just think it could have been better than what it was. It surprised me in some ways, which is why I'm thinking I'm around the 7 range, which is a great score for a movie, by the way. But yeah, somewhere between 6.8 and 7 is where I'm.
No, it's not. 7?
7 out of 10?
That's a C minus.
It's an above average movie.
Hey, yo!
5 out of 10 average.
Okay.
We're clearly working with a different scale here.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I know. Hey, let me ask you this: would you rather, instead of Zod, have them done Aquaman versus Wonder Woman, like war, like the Atlanteans versus the Amazons war, like in the comics? I feel like that would have been way better. Just me personally.
Frankly, no, I don't think so. I just don't think they would have had the resources to do it right. Having Zod and just a small army is, realistically, it would have been much worse to have all that extra. I don't think they would have had the budget or the time. That movie would have had,
had the
4 hours long.
They had the budget and the time, Parker. It took 7 years to make the movie.
No, but the time frame of runtime in the movie. They wouldn't have enough.
All right, everyone. That is our official thoughts and ratings on The Flash. Please let us know what you guys thought about the movie in the comments. And let us know if you guys enjoyed this group type video that we did. I know we haven't done them in a while. If you guys want to see more of this stuff, let us know in the comments. Like the video. It tells us you want to see more, and we'll definitely do that more. All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.